This is Jimmy Kimmel on Jimmy Kimmel Live, doing exactly what he's making fun of others for doing. See, he makes fun of the folks in the government lying to us. But then he intentionally lies to us. Let's press play and listen to this shit.
That Alex Preddy did not even draw, did not touch a gun that was taken from him by one of the agents before he was shot dead by the other ones. They fired 10 times on an ICU nurse. They're telling us, well, it was justified, you know? Is that the law and order that you voted for if you voted for this? Every day is a...
Now, here he's doing what? He's complaining that we were lied to about this Alex Preddy feller. That these government agents are lying to us about what we saw and heard with our own two eyes and our own two ears. But guess what? Jimmy Kimmel is about to show himself to be exactly as predatory. Let's listen to the rest of this bullshit.
It's a nightmare now. My wife and I have family in Minneapolis. They're afraid to take their kids to school. They're afraid to go to work. And I can only imagine how people who aren't white feel about this. How does this end? What's the plan here? Is the plan to just keep doing this in every city that didn't vote for Donald Trump? Does anyone on any side believe this is good leadership? We keep saying we need to find subjects that we can agree on. Can we agree that peaceful protesters, including moms driving SUVs on their way back after dropping their 6-year-old off at school?
That's not what happened. So, when it comes to Renee Good, I absolutely agree that she was murdered. I absolutely 100% agree that their narrative that she ran over a cop was an absolute lie. That she ran over an agent was an absolute lie. That she tried to murder them, that she weaponized her vehicle. Yes, it is absolutely 100% true that those are obviously lies. However, she wasn't just innocently dropping her 6-year-old off at school and just happened to be shot on her way home. That is not the case. You can see her vehicle is not moving at all. It is literally not moving. She is not parked properly in the lane because she shouldn't be parked in the middle of 2 lanes of traffic. It's understandable if your vehicle breaks down. When I was in Virginia, my vehicle broke down, and yes, I was blocking off 2 lanes of traffic because my car broke down, not because I pulled my vehicle illegally out in front of people because I didn't like what they were doing. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't agree with anything that ICE is doing, but I certainly will not fall for this bullshit narrative about brown people. I see that ICE is going mostly after brown people, but also American citizens. At the same time, the homeless deal with this daily, something that Mr. Kimmel here has absolutely no clue about. This man is as pampered as Donald Trump by comparison. Talking about his family in Minnesota, they're afraid to go to school. Oh my God, dude. Really? Really? Is that the narrative you're going to sell? That they murdered Renee Good because what? Because she was innocently driving home after dropping her kids off? No, that's not the fucking case, you lying sack of horse shit. I can't fucking stand liars. I can't stand them. They're disgusting. I had a lot of respect for Jimmy Kimmel, but now I have absolutely none. This man is a fucking coward. If he thought his side was so right, he wouldn't have to lie. We all got to hear Renee Good. She was absolutely there to obstruct ICE agents. And don't get me wrong, I agree 100% with her obstructing those ICE agents. I absolutely do. But Jimmy Kimmel, after everything that we've seen, he wants to sell this narrative that she was just driving home after dropping her 6-year-old off at school. No, don't fucking lie to me, you sack of shit. Jesus fucking Christ, Kimmel. You should be on the gallows with Trump. And before any of y'all want to get pissed off at me and say all sorts of hateful stuff, well, you know what? There is absolutely nothing wrong with me saying that, because apparently there's nothing wrong with Donald Trump saying that. Donald Trump seems to think that anybody who disagrees with him or tells the truth belongs in the gallows. Well, I have a different take on that. I don't think that we should put honest people up on stage for the world to see them hanged. My mom used to tell me that liars are worse than murderers, in her opinion. Then again, my mother was a chronic liar. How about you guys? You guys living a perfect life? Is everything great for you white people? Is your life perfect? Or is this just a minority thing? Because I'm pretty sure that the Black Panther Party identified it correctly when they said that this is a war on the poor. Something I've been saying for years. Why is the Black Panther Party for self-defense showing up even though it's white people being killed? Because those white people are sticking up for brown people and their people in houses. I'm fairly certain that the Black Panther Party doesn't give two shits about people on the streets. We don't get to hear them talking about the people on the streets, do we? Actually, that's not true. We do get to hear them talking about the people on the streets. We get to see them defending the people on the streets. We get to see them feeding the people on the streets. Now, according to this Kristi Noem feller, if you bring a gun to a peaceful protest, you are a domestic terrorist. And you'd think these guys would be wise enough in Minneapolis to arrest these people as domestic terrorists. ICE and the police are bringing firearms to peaceful protests. By your definition, they are domestic terrorists. Then again, I've stated this many times over the years. You guys are complaining because shit that has happened to the homeless for the entirety of every one of your lives. Every one. We can look back through history. The homeless have not been treated any better. You go back over 100 years, we got Americans that are 101 years old now, right? Well, with all due respect, if you look back 101 years, you'll notice that, yes, police were doing the same thing over 100 years ago. The homeless don't matter. Now, we get to see phases of the racism, like in the 1950s when they took all of those military buses that they had during World War II for taking all of these soldiers from one camp to another and taking them to their designated locations. Well, they had a lot of those surplus buses after the war, and after they got done delivering all them soldiers back home, they used those buses to deport anybody who was brown. I do mean anybody. You didn't have to You didn't have to be Spanish. You didn't have to be Mexican. You didn't have to be Argentinian. Being brown was good enough. Which means that if you were from Pine Ridge and didn't speak a word of Spanish, they could still pick you up and drop you off in Mexico. And they did. However, we also got a lot of years where people were fighting against that, saying that things like that are wrong. I don't live in a bubble under a rock with manservants and maidservants. I don't have a nice suit. What I've got is integrity. What I've got is the need to protect my loved ones. Need, not want. Jimmy Kimmel's up here talking about his family, right? That's okay. Are they going to tell him what a horrible person he is? Are they going to tell him, keep my name out your mouth? Well, with all due respect, if you said it, you said it. If you did it, you did it. Own it. I had to light a fire, literally light a fire, in order to try to get the cops to do their jobs. I had to literally threaten the President of the United States during his first presidency as Heir Trump in order to try to force the FBI to take a look at my evidence. Evidence of hate crimes against the homeless going back for decades. Jimmy Kimmel don't care, he's famous. And, of course, he got famous for what? Being funny? What am I famous for? Well, I'm not famous. I'm infamous. I'm infamous because of slander. What do we call those? We call those lies. Where you try to sell a false goddamn narrative. Don't fucking lie to me about Renee Good. I saw what she did. I heard what she was doing. I heard her own voice. I heard her talking about it. Yes, she intentionally was blocking off ICE. I'm not going to pretend that she tried to drive that guy over. I'm not going to pretend that she tried to kill anybody because that's certainly not the case. I'm not going to pretend she was trying to kill somebody like those liars on Trump's side. But I'm also not going to pretend that she was just innocently taking her 6-year-old to school and was murdered for no reason after the fact. No. They murdered her because you let them know they could get away with it. You let them know they could get away with it by looking away when they did it to the homeless. They thought they'd get away with it because you let them do it to the homeless. And you still let them do it to the homeless. And I'm not talking about ICE. I'm talking about law enforcement nationwide. At this point right here, Jimmy Kimmel is worse than the people he's complaining about. Don't fucking lie to me. I saw that shit with my own 2 eyes, Jimmy. Just like we all saw that man who was murdered by ICE agents was unarmed. When they shot him, he was unarmed. He didn't have a gun. He did not have a gun in his possession when he was murdered. Are you going to point that out, stupid? No, you're not. Now, these people want to say if you bring a gun to a peaceful protest, you're a domestic terrorist. Well, why doesn't Minnesota push that? Why is it we got to go to Jimmy Kimmel for our news? Why do we got to go to Jon Stewart for our news? Usually, I watch this because it's more honest than real news. They will show you the hypocrisy. Yeah, they make fun of it, but they're showing the hypocrisy. And now we got Jimmy Kimmel being the hypocrite. You know, it's one thing to do that, to show the example of how wrong it is. It's another thing to do so just so incredibly blatantly. Am I against ICE? Of course I am. However, due to recent events, I get to use them as the example. The example to show you guys what I've been saying all along. But you guys don't want to hear it. Now, there's a possibility that when I go in to try to turn in the crimes committed against me by people at TFCC, that's Tillamook Family Counseling Center, as well as the crimes committed against me by the Sheriff's Department here, the Police Department here, and elsewhere. And in every one of these situations, they decided that they were going to intentionally lie about the situation in the media. That would be the news, and of course, these true crime shows, these Natalie Bollinger Facebook groups. Oh, apparently my alarm's going off. It must be 6 a.m. Time to get started on working on my stuff. Gotta get a lot of the evidence that I can't post on the internet because it'll get me taken down. I gotta get some more of that organized. Bit by bit, inch by inch, it's all a cinch. Now, there's a possibility that Claire is not going to be able to be on the phone with me. I don't have someone to be on the phone with me. I also don't have somebody to go in with me in person. The fact that I've repeatedly had to go through this, where we finally get it set up so that I can go show evidence, and then the people who say they'll help me turn it in don't show up. And in most of those cases, the people that I'm supposed to turn the crimes into also don't show up. Case in point, when Investigator Woods and Sergeant Jones from Nebraska State Troopers, Troop E, when they were supposed to come and get me and my evidence against Dual County Sheriff's Department and others in Dual County. Well, the day that they were supposed to show up, first of all, Sergeant Jones said that she was going to talk to her boss and then she was going to get back a hold of me. Well, she never got back a hold of me. Not only that, because they were showing up, I made a video. I made a video showing how I literally couldn't go anywhere in Chapel, Nebraska without having to walk by one of my predators' houses. In order to avoid registered sex offender Robert Franklin Warnick's, it took my trip from Dallas Richmond's house on Thompson Street to the, what do you call that? The post office. It's about 2 blocks. But if I wanted to go to the post office without going by his place, I had to walk 13 blocks because of the various other people that after Natalie Bollinger died wanted to pretend that I'm out to hurt them and their kids. Fuck you. So you guys don't care about the liars. You don't care about the poor. You want to make a race issue out of something that's not a race issue. Now with ICE, I'm not going to pretend that that's not racist. I'm not going to pretend for one moment that they're not going after brown people. I'm not stupid. And that's real sad because the people who have treated me best in this country are the brown folks, very specifically immigrants. Who fixed my car in Hood River when it broke down? 14-year-old boy and his mother who didn't speak hardly any English. She didn't fix it though. She told him to fix it in Spanish and he translated for me. Yes, I'm against these ICE deportations. But I'm even more against these false narratives. See, this guy thinks that, well, they can sell a false narrative on what we many people see as more real than the real news, because we know that the real news right now is pandering to a bunch of racists. They're afraid they'll have to spend money on, well, paying Donald Trump because they told the truth. Jesus Christ, we live in a fucked up country, don't we? Anyway, if Jimmy Kimmel wants to be a liar, fuck it, let's put him in an ICE uniform. If he wants to be a liar, shit, we might as well set him up on Trump's chief of staff. If he wants to be a liar and lie to the American public, well, I think that we should put him up on a big billboard with his face right in between Trump and Putin.